Hey, today we're going to be focusing on the Bitcoin mining stocks and giving my outlook for 2025. So I expect them to do extremely well in 2025. So if you recall, the first time I ever made any videos regarding the Bitcoin miners was 2 years ago now. I think this was the first video I ever made, that 20x gains in the crypto miners, looking for those Lambo gains. So the proposition was so good. So as you know, I've been in this trade for 2 years. And if we actually check the price, Iren is my biggest holding, and also I'm covering it because it kind of makes me look the best. So if we go back to November 2022, right? So let's find November 2022, October. So here, around here, November 2022, stock price was at $1.71. Okay, you would have faced a little bit of a downturn, around 30%, 40%, but the stock has done amazingly well. So since that time, the stock was trading at 1.7. It's now at $12, nearly a 10 bagger. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I've made was not having enough strength or conviction and really going for it. I bought a small trench here, and then I just started averaging up. So my buy is actually really around the $3 mark, which is still pretty good gains, but not as much as I expected, to be honest. And that's my fault because I didn't put enough capital in. But fear not, this 2-year trade, I was actually waiting. This whole 2-year trade was for the 3rd year. So as we know, Bitcoin has these 4-year cycles, and generally the most gains are made in the 3rd year. So, this was the whole bull market, and this is I think where we're at. 2020 is here, and then this was really where it started to make the huge gains in that 3rd year. And I'm kind of expecting the same to happen here. Now, granted, I expected the miners to be a lot higher than they are now, especially if you look at some other miners which haven't done so well in terms of stock price, like Riot. So Riot has not done brilliantly over this course, and I'm going to cover exactly why I think that is, and the main reason basically all of these miners haven't kept pace with Bitcoin. Because to be completely honest, at 100k Bitcoin, I was really expecting them to be much higher. And I wrote an article here on my Substack. Go check it out. The link is below. Basically going into a little bit more detail on that. But I'm going to cover the main reason. The main reason the miners did not do so well was because of this. Shares outstanding. Now this is a chart that was hoping the stock price would look like, and I hope it does in 2025 for my sake. But this chart is basically this is basically dilution in a chart. So you can see they massively diluted the share price, and of course by diluting, they're creating more shares. Basically the value of each share is worth less. Now this really did suppress the stock price, even though it has done pretty well. As you can see, it's still like at 12, but I know it was painful for us because it was so volatile. Every time it started to climb, they issued more shares and it brought the price down, etc. But this really was necessary for growth. And all the miners did this. Even my second biggest holding, CleanSpark, I think they were even more aggressive with this. So this was the number one reason, in my opinion, why the miners did not perform as I expected. Like, just look at that. You just keep scrolling and it keeps going higher. Now, granted, I think this was absolutely necessary for growth, and these companies wouldn't have survived. And basically, they needed to do this, and I'm hoping that dilution is over, and 2025 is basically where it's going to take off. And the reason for this is because Bitcoin actually broke its all-time high back in March, and there was basically no fanfare. No one was talking about this period. It was still pretty dead. And I think that just flowed over straight to the miners, that people just didn't want to be in the miners because they didn't have any belief in Bitcoin itself. So why would you be jumping in the miners if you don't believe in the underlying asset? There was no real mania. But now that Bitcoin is really striking that 100k mark, and it's going to go well beyond it, I think people will start to look at stuff that can outperform Bitcoin. That's generally what happens with alts. Like Ethereum still hasn't broken its all-time high. And I think Ethereum will do this, but I think what people do is they go into Bitcoin. Bitcoin starts doing amazing. Then they feel like, oh, they missed out, and they start piling into alts, etc., to get that outperformance. And I think that's going to happen with the miners because they're acting like altcoins basically. But I think the benefit here is that their profitability will increase massively, because Bitcoin, if it gets to 150, 200K, it's going to be absolutely crazy. So this whole 2-year trade is basically me waiting for this last year, the third year in the bull market for Bitcoin. And this is where I expect that it's really going to start outperforming.